Listen, I am very excited and honored to have been asked here. Now, I want to make one thing clear, and it's very important. This is not technically an official endorsement of Charles Lollar for Maryland, all right? Because I have met Mr. Lollar. He is an incredible guy, and he has an incredible resume, and he wants to do away with taxes in Maryland. So, hello. He wants to do away with income taxes in Maryland. But my job on a daily basis is to be a radio talk show host. And that means, I have a responsibility. My responsibility is to entertain, inform, enlighten, and engage. And in doing that, thank you. And in doing that, here's the problem. I walk into a major trap if I endorse somebody in a primary, because if I say Charles Lollar is my candidate for Maryland governor, then none of the other candidates will come on our show, and that's not a good thing. So I just want to be real clear. I am honored to be here. I am thrilled to be here. I have a great admiration for Mr. Lollar. And this is a very important fight that we Republicans in Maryland are waging. So make sure that you take all of the messages that you hear here tonight, take it out to the voters. Because the fact of the matter is, Maryland Republicans feel like they don't have a voice. They feel like they don't have representation. You know why? Because they don't have representation. We have one-party rule right now. That has to end. Has to end this election season. All right, first of all, you've been entertained by the Zimmerman telegram. I want to acknowledge them for a minute. Now, those guys are brothers, and you would have never guessed it by looking at them. I will let that statement stand on its own, Mr. Lollar. Thank you. He saved me on that one. That is Mark Zimmerman and his brother Paul Zimmerman on bass. And of course, the Zimmerman telegram harkens back to the 1917 diplomatic proposal sent by the German Empire to Mexico that was interpreted and decoded by British intelligence. The revelation of its contents outraged the American public opinion and led to the U.S. into World War I. But of course, everybody knew that. So you didn't need me to tell you that very long explanation of the name of their band. You guys should stick with, the Grass Grubs or something simple that doesn't need an explanation. All right, the bottom line here is that you are here to support Charles Lollar for governor. What does that mean? That means a new way forward for this state of Maryland. And I think we all agree that we need a new way forward for Maryland. Now, the campaign's asked me to lay out a couple of bullet points here for what they want to do for this state, and I don't think there's anything here that anybody can't get behind. I'm going to change the order here, though, because I'm going to leave the best for last. Number one, conservative principles with practical solutions, something lacking in Annapolis right now. We can agree. Serious reform of this state government, because we have one-party control, and what happens with one-party control? Cronyism. Right? No accountability. $150 million spent on a healthcare website. Annapolis does nothing about it during their session. They ask for an audit, and what does the audit tells us? There was no one in charge. I'm sorry, I thought there's somebody who claims he was in charge and is actually running on being in charge. That's the lieutenant governor who thinks that it's his birthright to become your next governor. Yeah, that's what happens with one-party rule, and that's our problem right now. State government is imposing life-changing rules on us without rigorous debate. I think that we can all agree on that. Just think about the fact that right now a private restaurant owner can't stop a man from going into a woman's restroom in this state. Did you have a voice in that discussion? What about the new gun rules, the gun laws in this state that your governor and your legislature did not run on when they ran for office, but then because of a horrible event in Connecticut, they took away your Second Amendment rights? Did you have a voice in that? You had no voice. That's what happens with one-party rule. And finally, yes, I've saved it, best for last. What is it, April 25th? So it's only been 10 days, but I'm sure you're still sore, aren't you? Elimination of the state personal income tax. Can I say that one issue right there could reform so much in our government? Look at the tax code for the state of Maryland. Look at how big it is. Look at all those little line items in that code. Each one of those line items is bought and paid for by special interests in Annapolis who have lawmakers who write that into the code to accommodate that special interest. That's why we don't trust the government. Also, You're suspicious of the government. Yeah, somebody from Annapolis calls you and says, hey, there's a question about your tax form. You break out into a cold sweat. They're the enemy, right? Get rid of the income tax, and suddenly you start building bonds with our government instead of fearing our government. Why should we fear our government? They work for us. All right. Couple of quick things here. The Limmerman. Let me put this down. So people have actually asked me, do you guys have a cocktail before you do the show in the morning? Can you imagine? And the real answer is no, because no, we don't. And this is why. Because the show might be awesome if we do that. And then we'll think, well, we got to do what we did yesterday, so let's just get drunk again. So we don't do that. The Lollar-Timmerman effort is an absolutely, totally grassroots effort. What does that mean? That means you're in charge of what goes on here, and you're responsible for what goes on. That means we need you to participate tonight. There's a silent auction over here. They're selling off very important, treasured, impossible things to get. I haven't looked, but that's my hunch, because that's what they do at silent auctions. There's also a half and half auction. Where's Christy? Christy with the glasses. Raise your hand, Christy. She's doing the half and half thing. Now that has nothing to do with what you pour in your coffee, apparently, because that's what I thought. That means that you put in some money for a raffle and you win half the pot. And the other half goes to the campaign, and then there will be somebody standing right behind you saying, you know, that half you just won could be a really good political donation to the... I'm guessing that's what they'll do because they're smart. So please, get your t-shirts, get your bumper stickers, get your boxer shorts over there as well. All right, the very first person I'm going to introduce, I'm very excited. His name is Antonio Giuliano. And no, he is no relation to the mayor of New York. It's Giuliani. That's different. Totally different part of Italy. This guy is an accomplished tenor. He's appeared in opera, concerts, recitals all across Europe and the United States. He's performed Modulate. He's performed at Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center. But you know what? Let me throw all of that away. Listen to this. It's very important. The man who is about to sing for you was a soloist at the funeral services of President Ronald Reagan. He sang an a cappella rendition of Amazing Grace, which was President Reagan's favorite hymn. He is here tonight to sing for Charles Lollar for governor. Please appreciate Antonio Giuliano.
This is our national anthem. May we have silence for our national anthem, please? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets roared glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
I'm sorry, I didn't exactly hear that. Please, for crying out loud. I should have warned you about the goosebumps. All right, let's get things rolling here. Vice Chairman of the Gaithersburg City Council. He heads up the Montgomery County effort for Lollar Timmerman team. So he's got a lot of heavy lifting to do, but guess what? Why did Dillinger rob the banks? Because that's where the money is. Why do we need an effort in Montgomery County? Because that's where the votes are. There are a hell of a lot of Republicans in Montgomery County who don't get off their butts and vote because they feel like they're not represented. It starts with this man, Henry Marafa. He's the only elected Republican in Montgomery County, so that deserves a hand. He served on the Gaithersburg City Council for more than 18 years. He's now the vice chairman. He's been re-elected 5 times, and he's here to support Charles Lollar. He's a man who knows how to win in Montgomery County. Please, Henry Marafa.
Well, welcome everybody. New governor, new lieutenant governor, right here in this crowd. You know, I'm here tonight because it's very important that we get out the vote. And all the elections we have, one of the biggest issues is we don't come out and vote. I've run and I've been elected 6 times. I was elected the first time in 1993, and I've been re-elected 5 times since then. And the biggest problem we have is not getting out the vote. I actually lost an election for city council by 5 votes. And my neighbors all told me, "Oh, Henry, you were a shoo-in. We didn't vote." And I lost it right on my street. So tell you right now, you tell your friends, get out to vote. That is the most crucial thing in any election. I had the distinction of being on the city council with Gaithersburg for almost over 20 years now, and I've been elected 6 times. But one thing that we have in Gaithersburg that's so important that we want to do in Maryland, so we have no debt. Now, how many cities do you know in this country that have 0 debt? Gaithersburg has 0 debt. We've only raised the rate of taxes in Gaithersburg 1 time in 48 years. And the reason we did that, because Annapolis, which is out of control, and our county, which is out of control, took away our highway user funds. In Gaithersburg, that's $2 million. They took away our duplication tax money, which means we put on a police department, they reimburse us because we are doing their job. They took that money away from us. So we had to raise the rate of taxes for the first time in 48 years. And they blamed us for raising taxes when they took our money. So we need help in Annapolis, seriously. If you ever go down to Annapolis while they're in session, it's almost like a kindergarten. I had a very, very strong email exchange with one of the delegates there about men going into the women's room in the bathrooms. And I said, of all the things, I said, it may be important, and I'm not saying it's not important to people who are of transgender, but when we have the state is in the top 5 in losing jobs, losing wealth, the most unfriendly state in the country for businesses, and you're worried about men going into the men's room, quit wasting my time. So, So what are the big issues here? What are we going to do? What are we going to do with Charles and Ken? We're going to come out into this state and we're going to reorganize. First off, being number 45 in business unfriendly states means we need serious help. We have lost, and most of everybody in this room know at least 2 friends that have moved out of the state. We've lost millions of dollars in tax revenues because everybody's retiring and moving out of the county and out of the state. The other big issue is Obamacare. The health care is a disaster. It's one thing to say we want to insure uninsured people, But when you mess it up the way we've done in this state and in this country, let me tell you right now, there's a lot of room for improvement, like 100%. So we have our work cut out for us. A lot of people are talking about, saying, well, how can we cut out income tax, state income tax? All you have to do is ask the people in New Jersey. At one time, New Jersey was always the business state. They put in the state income tax, and they've gone south ever since. The states are the most successful right now in this country. Texas, Tennessee, Florida have no state income tax, and they're doing well. All the businesses are coming there. If you look at the statistics, they're the people who are getting the people that we're losing. So we need to reverse that trend right now. So I don't want to take up everybody's time, but just remember one thing. The reason that I've been elected in Gaithersburg for all these elections, if you ask anybody that knows me, I'm for pro-growth and I'm for pro-business. And in that tenure of 20 years, the things that I've been working on have been Washingtonian Rio, which is a class-winning shopping area. The Kentlands, world class. Lakelands, Saybrook, Quince Orchard Park, all the above. Old Town. We keep building because nothing stays the same. You must go forward. You must have businesses coming in. And we put together a $2 million trust fund to attract new businesses because we're fighting not the loss of businesses, but our own state laws. So we have a lot of work to do. So let's have a strong support, get out to vote for our next governor, Charles Lollar. Thank you.
All right. That's fantastic. I want to amplify really quickly on something that, I talk for 25 hours on WMAL every week, 4 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon at 5 o'clock. In fact, when I first spoke with candidate Lollar, it was our 5 o'clock show. We had a great conversation, and I was so impressed with Charles Lollar. I mean, seriously, and Rosha, the entire family is phenomenal. And I remember we discussed the phenomenon. Whenever we talk on the air about laws in Maryland, we always get all of these callers from Virginia. Remember when I brought this up to you? And these Virginians call in, they're so smug, these Virginians. Well, yeah, that's why I live in Virginia. That's why I don't live on that side of the Potomac. Well, guess what? That tide has begun to change after this last election. We're hearing some nervous people in Virginia calling in saying, oh my goodness, what is this Terry McAuliffe Clintonista doing in my state house? Richmond ain't the same. And the fact of the matter is, this is a window of opportunity for this state. Look at that banner. You think there might be some people moving up north of the Potomac if you eliminate the state income tax in Maryland? You think that's some commerce? You think that's the way to drive an economy? All right, I want to point out somebody, very important person who's here. Her name is Rose Lee. Rose, raise your hand. She is the Republican candidate for State Delegate District 16, right here at Bethesda, up the Potomac, Chevy Chase down to the border. Listen, every candidate is important. Rose Lee is particularly important because if she wins, when she wins, she will be my personal delegate. And I've got some issues, Rose. All right. Up next, Richard Rothschild. He's a constitutional conservative. Remember the Constitution? Now, he was elected a Carroll County Commissioner in 2010 under one very important and resonating theme: less government. That message won, and he's here to speak on behalf of the Lollar-Timmerman campaign. Richard Rothschild, Commissioner, Carroll County. Mr. Rothschild, there he is.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here among all you right-wing extremists. Yeah. I'm here tonight for several interesting reasons. First, I'm worried we're losing our constitutional freedoms and we're losing our liberties. I'm here because I'm tired of being disappointed by weak Republicans that take the oath of office, get into office, and then forget the oath of office and betray us. And that has to end. And that's another reason why I'm here tonight. And instead of defending our freedoms, weak Republican officials have become part of the wheels of government that are grinding us down. So I'm going to give you a very politically incorrect speech here. I'm here because as a county commissioner, I'm very concerned about the devastating effect Annapolis policies are having on our citizens, our freedoms, our businesses, our farms. And we've got to stop this liberal machinery right where it is today. I want a government who understands that the principal role of I want a governor who understands that the principal role of government is to preserve and protect our God-given unalienable rights of life, liberty, and property. And I see Charles nodding his head yes. I want candidates for office, and so do you, that respect God. That respect God, because without Him we have nothing. I want a lieutenant governor who understands the true purpose of the Second Amendment. It goes beyond self-defense, as Ken so adroitly said at a forum the other night. The purpose of the Second Amendment is to preserve freedom. Without the Second Amendment, we lose everything else. And people ask, how far should we go to defend the Second Amendment? The answer is we need a governor and lieutenant governor that will go all the way to defend the Second Amendment. I'm up here tonight because I want my children to live in a free America and a free Maryland. And it's the governors of this country that are going to turn the tide. It's not going to come from the White House. It's going to come from our governors and people like Ken Timmerman and Charles Lollar. And I'm here because I'm convinced there are only two men with the convictions, the principles, the integrity, and the determination, and that's a big word, the determination to move Maryland in the right direction, pun intended, the right direction. And that's Charles and Ken. You see, there's plenty of Republicans running for governor who can talk the talk, and I've been watching them, and I like what a lot of them have to say, but it doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what they do. Talk is cheap. I'm impressed by actions, not words. Kat knows that. While other Republicans were lobbying each other, Charles and Ken were down in Prince George's County beating the bushes, changing the political winds down there. They were down in Prince George's, Baltimore City, changing the political winds down there, setting the stage on a bigger prize, which is the general election, right? While other Republicans were talking tough, Ken Timmerman was in the Middle East, being held hostage. That's what I call a real man. While other Republicans were creating sound bites, Charles Lollar was meeting with me, discussing ways to actually rein in an out-of-control state government that's encroaching on your freedoms. And when we discuss these things and ways to roll these things back and ways to get these problems under control, you know what Charles said to me? He said, Commissioner, we can do that. That's the right answer. We can do that. Thank you, Charles. Now, pay very close attention to what I'm about to say. This is very important. I want you all to remember what I'm going to tell you. People ask me all the time, is the Charles Lollar, Ken Timmerman plan to eliminate state taxes realistic? Are we really going to have enough money to run the state government? That's the wrong question. That's completely the wrong question. And here's why it's the wrong question. A shortage of money in Washington, D.C. and a shortage of money in Annapolis is not the problem. It's the solution. It's the solution. Because as government shrinks, freedoms will be restored. And Charles and Ken adroitly understand that fact, And I want everybody to repeat after me. A shortage of money in Annapolis is not the problem. What is it? It's the solution. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there are several good candidates running for office today, but good isn't good enough. The candidates we choose in the primary must be capable of out-campaigning Anthony Brown, out-thinking Anthony Brown, and the candidates we choose must be capable of defeating Anthony Brown in the general election. And those two candidates are here tonight. There's only one team running that's capable of doing that, and I'm convinced that that's Charles and Ken, and that's why I'm here today to officially endorse both of them for governor. Thank you, gentlemen, for running. Thank you. And there's one other thing there's actually two other things I want to say. There's one final reason to support Charles that you probably haven't thought of. You see, he's a major in the Marine Reserves. And when the going gets tough, what do? You send in the Marines. Let's hear it for Charles and Ken. God bless you, gentlemen. Thank you for our service to our country. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
To that end, I've been asked to remind you once again about the silent auction. Who has not yet been to the silent auction? Well then, let me just point out that there is a Marine Corps wine basket. Now, I thought Marines aren't supposed to whine. Thank you very much. I didn't think that would work. It's what is it called? It's Semper Fi. The Semper Fi Vintage. See, but I'll take that, Kathleen. Is whatever anybody throws at me. Well, anyway, check it out. Wine and Marines. It's got a little stuffed teddy bear. It plays Halza Montezuma and all that stuff. Wait a second. Yeah. All right. Time to get to the big wigs here. It's my pleasure to introduce Ken Timmerman, Republican candidate for lieutenant governor. Now, we're in Montgomery County. A lot of you know Ken Timmerman. Not a lot of candidates for lieutenant governor have been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. He was in 2006. Tireless work exposing Iran's nuclear weapons program. He's an investigative reporter. I have huge respect for investigative reporters, especially when they come from the right side of the political equation. We do not have enough of them. For those of you who don't know, I'm relatively new in the media world and in the political punditry world, and I was brought into this world by a man named Andrew Breitbart. And thank you. And Andrew had such great respect for investigative reporters who would challenge the narrative that we see every day on CNN, on NBC, on ABC, on CBS, on all of the networks, and yeah, even sometimes on Fox News. He had such admiration and such pride for any conservative who was willing to go ask the questions that everyone else is afraid to ask because they're immediately going to be called names. There's something to be said for someone that has the courage to do that and the fight in them to do that. Ken Timmerman, he's a resident of Kensington for many years. He was the 2012 Republican nominee for Congress. In the 8th District, he was endorsed by Ambassador John Bolton, another great American who asks the tough questions. Ken's married, he has 5 children, and on a personal note, I just want to say when I first met Ken Timmerman, I was at an event not unlike this. And I was speaking, and I often open it up to questions and answers. And here's this guy who raises his hand, who I'd never met before. And usually the question is Brian Wilson really that tall? When do you sleep? How do you decide what to talk about? And Ken says, why did you let that lying sack of bleep, Chris Van Hollen, lie on your show? Right? You may not have used the 4-letter word. I may have added that, but that's how it came across to me. And we had a good back and forth about it, actually. And here's the point. That should tell you that Ken Timmerman is a fighter. I don't think anybody would deny that. And he is tenacious, and he knows what he believes and what he stands for. And he will take the fight directly to the people who don't want to fight, who are so used to not having a fight, who are so used to being in an echo chamber and not having anyone challenge them. candidate for Lieutenant Governor Ken Timmerman.
Boy, Larry, you've got a great memory, I must say. I remember that evening as well. We had a wonderful time. I don't think I used the four-letter words, but I'm sure they were in the back of my mind as they were in the back of your mind. I have one claim to fame, which I think most people in this room would understand. And in some environments, they don't get it, and they don't think it's a claim to fame. As a reporter, I was actually fired by Time magazine for... And I was fired by Time magazine for asking difficult questions of the Clinton administration. They did not think that was a reporter's job to ask the executive branch tough questions. I had been brought up in a country where I thought that was the job of the press. I got to know Charles Lollar during the 2012 campaign, and I'll make a confidence to you right here. The first thing Charles asked me when we sat down in a cafe to get to know each other privately, away from the spotlights, away from other people, he said, "Ken, are you a believer?" That was the very first thing Charles wanted to know. He said, "Ken, are you a believer?" And I said, "Yes, I am. And I wouldn't be here except by the grace of God, who lifted me up out of a hellhole in Beirut in 1982. And so I was literally, as well as spiritually, reborn there in the cellars. And I had a choice to make. Somebody came in, and they were taking folks out of that place and taking them around the corner and shooting them. And somebody said to me, "You know, are you something that you are not?" They said, "Are you French?" and I just looked up and I said, "Lord, it's in your hands." "Yes, I am." And they took me out, and as you can tell, they didn't shoot me. So here I am by the grace of God. That was the first question Charles asked me, and thank you, Charles. It was the right question. Charles asked me to be his running mate, I believe, for one reason: to be his hammer. Charles wants somebody in Annapolis who can find where the corruption is and hammer it out. And that's what we're going to do. We will put an end to the corruption in Annapolis. That's why you're going to elect us the next governor and lieutenant governor. I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret that most people don't know. The personal income tax in our state brings in about $8 billion a year. Out of our inflated budget, that's only 19% of the state budget. Can you believe that? 19% of the state budget? That's it for your personal income tax? Well, here's the dirty little secret. The state also spends about $8 billion on contracts to cronies. So every dollar that they pick from your pocket, they give to their cronies. We're going to end that in the Lollar-Timmerman administration. Charles and I have been going around this state, and when you don't see Charles in your Republican events, I can tell you where he is. He's talking to Democrats, because we understand we don't win this election in November by talking to ourselves. We love you, but we don't win this election by talking amongst ourselves. We have to go and win Democrats and independents, and we have to show them that they actually share our values. They just don't know it yet. So Charles has been out there teaching Democrats, revealing to Democrats, taking the scales off their eyes that they do actually share our values, and we want your vote. And we'll be your governor and lieutenant governor too. As we go around this state, I hear a common refrain about Common Core. I think you know what it is. Common Core has got to go. In the first budget that we put forward, there will be no funds for Common Core. We would like to return responsibility for schools back to the local elected school boards. It doesn't belong in Annapolis. It doesn't belong in Washington. It belongs with you in your local boards. The first budget of the Lollar-Timmerman administration will include the first piece of our tax cut. Now, you heard Larry talk about that. You know, of course we can afford it. Of course we can afford it when $8 billion is going to cronies. Of course we can afford taking away the personal income tax over 5 years. That first year, we're going to drop the rate for lower income people to 0. So if you are a lower income person in Maryland, you will pay 0 income tax instead of what you're paying now. If you are a family earning up to $150,000, we're going to drop your rate from 4.75% marginal down to a 3% tax, a flat tax, the first year, the first budget of the Lollar term administration. We're going to build public-private partnerships for schools construction. We're going to help kids in Baltimore City to get away from their failing schools by making sure that money goes with the families, with their parents, so they can send kids to the school of their choice, not to the failing schools next door. And I mentioned corruption early on, and you're going to hear a lot about corruption in this campaign. At least from our side, you won't hear it from the other side, but you'll hear it from us. We're going to institute audits of every single state agency. That's right, we are. Every single state program. And we're going to make sure that money goes where it's supposed to go and not into the pockets of those politically connected people in Annapolis. So I want to introduce to you right now a very important person. Some of you have met him. In fact, I'm sure most of you in this room have met him. Charles Lollar is a Marine Corps officer. He's been serving his country, deployed 3 times overseas. Charles and I sometimes joke about who's had the worst meals in the worst places with the most noise going around. Charles, I think I beat you. I really do. I think I beat you. Charles Lollar is a businessman. He's run a business with a payroll of $23 million a year in Prince George's County with 212 employees. He understands a bottom line. He understands what it means to take home a profit afterwards, and he understands that government takes that away. We need somebody with business experience in Annapolis. We need Charles Lollar in Annapolis. I give you the next governor of the state of Maryland.
Well, sometimes when he does that, I have a hard time trying to locate who he's talking about. The Marine Corps part I'm good with, but after that it kind of goes downhill. And I, to be honest with you, I really don't like that much applause because, you know, they train us in the Corps that, you know, every time you try to say thank you to one of my enlisted Marines, they'll look back at you and say, you don't have to thank me, I'm thanked the 1st and 15th of every month. It's very difficult. They do. That's just the culture of the Corps, and it's very difficult until I've earned it. And I'm running for governor because I want to earn not just your applause, but I want to earn more and more people coming back to our state and believing that it's their government again, and not a government for tyrants, and not a government that just controls every dollar and cent you send to Annapolis. I want to make sure your government works for you and you realize that you are our customers and we work for you. That's, if we can get there, then the applause, as far as I'm concerned, is certainly well deserved, but certainly not for me, but the process that we're able to put together. Now, when I ask Ken that question, and I try not to let a lot of the private things I do out, I wasn't going to say that Ken did. So Christine, since Ken already said it, I'm going to put it out there full force so that you know why I actually asked Ken that question, are you a believer? I did it because it's going to take a believer to win in Maryland as a Republican governor and lieutenant governor in 2014. I asked that question of Ken because I realized that it's going to take believers in order to get through a Republican primary of people that might not believe that this can be done, because we're so used to playing the political games of almost high school elections that we don't think things through all the way through the general and ask ourselves the hard question of how are we going to turn a tide that's gone one direction for so long and actually make a difference. I asked Ken that question because I knew the importance of being a believer in a race like this one here in Maryland, because we're going uphill, not downhill. We're not going even hill. We're fighting an uphill battle that's going to take us all the way through the primary and through the general election. And like most of you, you hit those brick walls from time to time. You hit those places where you almost think, can this really be done? I can't tell you how many times, and my wife won't confess to it, that I looked at her and she looked at me and we asked ourselves, are we sure we want to do this? I haven't had so much criticism on both sides of the aisle in my professional job training skill set, my professional experience in my life. And many times I came home and I would ask my wife, I said, at least in the Marine Corps, because she was trying to figure out why I kept saying, man, I need to be deployed. I need to go back to combat. And she'd ask me, what in the world are you saying? I'd tell her, at least in the Marine Corps in combat, you know which way the bullets are flying. Folks, there are days when I ask myself, what in the world did I do? All Rosha and I did was, about 18 months ago, we made a decision to get on our knees and pray to see if this was the Lord's will for our lives. Does he want us to do this in this state? Here we are, send us. In that same verse, and this is not Sunday school, it's not Sunday yet, but that same verse I heard over and over again, be of good courage, for I am your God and I'll send you. And I'm saying that because we knew what it was going to take to get there. We just had no idea how much the issues and sometimes the snipes from inside and outside and around the campaign and political parties would actually affect us. It might not seem like it, but I'm actually an introvert. It's true. My wife will tell you. I have to go through a lot of prayer and thought process just to get up to speak a lot of times. Because I'd rather, if it were up to me, like many of you, I'd rather be home with my lovely wife and a glass of wine watching movies. Not in rain trying to get here, an hour and a half, fly in from Charleston this afternoon to get here on time. It's tough just to be constantly bombarded with questions about your integrity and your character and your political philosophy. I asked him if he's a believer for many reasons. There's some days I wake up and look at my campaign manager, Bob Carlstrom. I don't wake up and look at him. He's not there. I look at him through the phone. Bob, help me. There are some days when talking with Bob Carlstrom, my campaign manager, I say, if it could go wrong within the Lollar campaign, it has found a way to go wrong. I had one gentleman that left our campaign. He had no idea how he honored me. He walked over to me at an event. He put his arm around me. He said, you know what? God must be with you, because for everything that you've been through and you're still doing well, God must really be with you. It's been a struggle. But Commissioner, it's been a fight worth taking on. Because we believe in the people of Maryland. We believe in what our state should stand for. We believe that no matter what the adversity, no matter what the issue, we can push through. And it's worth it at the end of the day. When we turn this corner, and hear me clear, because we will win this thing. We will win this thing. There is no question in my mind. We will win this. When we turn this corner, there'll be a lot of thank yous to give out. And I'm going to give out every single one that I can remember. From the beginning of this campaign all the way through. Because so many people came together to make this possible, to make this victory happen. Some stayed, some left. But it does not downplay the hard work they put in to make this campaign successful. I want to prove that you can run a campaign that is tasteful, that has honor, that has integrity. And even when other people change their minds and try to tell you what you don't have, if you stand firm, hold your peace, and let him fight your battles, stand on principle, you can do some great things And I believe we could turn the state of Maryland around. I stand here convicted of that. I'm convicted and I'm convinced. So at this point, Ken, it doesn't matter what they throw at us. Councilman, we're going to keep standing. Not just standing, but there's a particular verse that I like that my wife reminds me of too. It goes a little like this, that the race is not given to the swift. I know. Such and such has outraged you 5-1. I got it. Understood. Nor the battle to the strong. I know. Such and such has 15 more years of political experience than you do. Thank you for the compliment. Some of y'all get that on the way home. Career politicians have ruined this country and this state. I will not be one. But the race is given to those that will endure into the end. And a lot of times, half the battle is endurance. As I look around this room, I see faces of those who've endured, those who are still standing against a lot of odds. I know your friends call you, they say, are you still supporting that Lollar guy? Are you kidding me? Don't you realize he's not even a serious candidate? Don't you realize he hasn't raised enough money? Don't you look, we're raising the money, and you'll see that May the 27th when we produce our new numbers. Although they keep using our old numbers. Isn't that something? But we are running a grassroots campaign. We know it takes money to get the message out. But please keep this in mind, and do me a favor, share this with other people. Share it with people upstairs. Share it with people tomorrow. Share it with the Baltimore Sun and the Washington Post. Share this with them. If it were all about money, wouldn't Michael Steele be our current U.S. Senator? Didn't he outraise Ben Cardin? He did. You can clap. It's okay because he did. If it were all about money, wouldn't Mitt Romney be our president? All I'm trying to say in a state like Maryland, this is not Texas. This is not Georgia. If there's one thing that we've seen other campaigns do, is you can win 19 counties and still win an election for governor in the state of Maryland. You have to pay your proper time in the areas of Prince George's County, Baltimore City, and Montgomery County if you're going to win this race for Maryland. Come here, Greg Holmes. Come here, Greg Holmes. Hurry up. He's an example. You all don't know why you're clapping for him, but clap for him. Here's a guy that I met when I was running for Congress. And he was on the fence, didn't know which way he wanted to go, but he knew he wanted to run for office. Wasn't quite sure which party he'd choose yet. Till we met. That was a brotherly kiss. I'm married. He took me around. Listen, he took me around. From football field to Little League football field to Little League football field in Prince George's County, didn't he, Rosha? He had our banner up at a Prince George's County Little League football game where they've never put a Republican banner up before in Prince George's County. He's going to turn around and help us significantly in this race in Prince George's County. He's just one of many, and on top of that, he's running against Donna Edwards in the congressional fourth. Come here, Ramona Baker. Come here, Ramona. Come here. Bring her with you. Come with her. Yes, sir. This is what I'm talking about. These are the kind of things it's going to take to win this election. Don't know why you clap, but clap anyway. I had the honor of meeting this lady while I was working, as my wife and I working our backsides off in Baltimore City. She's running in Baltimore City, are you not? I am. It gets better. She's running as a Democrat, are you not? I am. She's the right kind of Democrat, pun intended. I'm saying that because she put a lot on the line in meeting with me and bringing several of her supporters with me, saying, Charles, we're going to do all we can to make sure you win Baltimore City. And she brings with them a guy that's running against.
You really want to tell him?
Absolutely. I want you to tell him.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Corrigan Vaughn, tell him.
My name is Corrigan Vaughn, and I'm retiring Elijah Cummings.
You know why this is important? You know why this is important? Because you're going to get a lot of questions as to why you're supporting somebody like Charles Lollar. You're going to get those questions left and right. These are just a few. Dr. Calendar's not here. Dr. Calendar represents Democrats for Lollar in Montgomery and Howard County. See, the whole time the report was out for Ken and Charles Lollar, why are they not at this event and that event for Republicans? If you're not able to corral Democrats to see your point of view, help to see where we're going and how we can walk together, you're not going to win in the state of Maryland. I don't care how much money you raise, you won't win in Maryland. I bring people like this up on this stage for a reason. I want you all that have been loyal, that have been faithful, that have stood beside me and Rosha. I want you to see the hard work that we're doing and how hard we're working, not to compromise our message. Ramona, do I compromise the conservative message? We don't compromise the message. We're simply there. We show up. For the last 2 weeks, I've been to 9 forums. Of those 9 forums, 6 of them have been Democratic forums, of which I've been the only Republican there. That's a problem. I mean, I know you're clapping, and I appreciate that, but that's a problem. Because in about 60 days, who's counting? You're going to have to elect a governor that can win a general election out of the primary, out of the Republican Party. And if we keep playing these games, that's all they are. It's who's the most popular, who could smile the biggest, and who could duck the most forums in a year. It gets on my nerves. I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of serious new way forward, a serious change in the direction that we're going. And you can't get there by talking about it. Like the commissioner said, you have to do something. You have to do something you haven't done before. Now, I'll tell you how my mother says it, and you all know I'm famous for quoting my mom. I guess I am my mama's boy. What son isn't? But she'd say insanity, son, is defined as doing the same thing and expecting different results. For years, we've been told that we can't win in Maryland. For years, we've been told that Democrats just won't talk to Republicans. I'm not going to tell you that every day has been easy for me and Rosha on this campaign trail. One event we went to last Saturday, it was a veterans organization. It was in Charles County, Maryland. I was asked to speak at that event 4 weeks prior to the event. They asked me to come to the event. I responded and said I'd come and speak as a veteran. They said, listen, it can't be partisan. I said, fine. The gentleman said, we've been trying to get Lieutenant Governor Brown there to come, but he won't come. Will you come? I said, I'll absolutely come. We showed up for that event. We had 5 events in that day. We ended up out on the eastern shore for the last part of the day. It was a long day. We put 500 miles on the car in that one day. When we left Montgomery County and made our way to Charles County to go to that event, the gentleman stopped me, walked up to me, said, Charles, and now this gentleman who's over this veterans organization is a prior Marine. He said, Charles, I hate to say this, but I'm going to have to retreat and uninvite you from speaking. I looked at him, I said, you got to be kidding me. Wasting my time. I said, first of all, Marine, I've never heard the word Marine and retreat in the same sentence. The second thing I said to him, who are we fighting for? I thought we were fighting for a nation, not a party. He said, well, Charles, you don't understand. The pressure I'm getting is bigger than me. Anthony Brown is due here any moment. I said, I thought Lieutenant Governor Brown couldn't make it. Well, when he found out you were coming, he showed up. Also said, you should not speak. Happens too often to count. They would not allow me to speak. In a parade in Montgomery County, when one woman looked at me and said, you're a Republican, rolls her eyes, said, you know, Dr. King had a dream, but you're not it. Every time we turn around, we hear opposition. But it doesn't stop there. We even get it right here within our own party. Isn't that right, Patty? It's so difficult, but it's worth the fight. So we're very bold. And let's make sure this announcement's clear. We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep this going. We're going to win this election, and we're going to do it for the right reasons. I am very, very proud of where we're going. I'm very proud of Ken Timmerman, one of the hardest workers when it comes to politics. As a statesman, I've seen, I refuse to call you a politician. You'll always be a statesman. Now listen, folks, we have a long road ahead of us. I'm going to conclude my comments, although I could probably go about 20 more minutes, but Ann is already yanking me. Would y'all give Ann Hinkson a great big hand for her hard work and dedication in making this happen? I'm going to ask if Ken would come up on the stage, and if the next two first and second ladies of Maryland would join us up here on the stage. Would y'all give these beautiful ladies a hand? Now, I would ask mine to speak, but she won't do it. I told her once at one event, I'm serious, honey. I said, I'm going to have you speak. I told her that. I said, Walter, I said, you're going to speak on this one. She looked at me fine, and she said, fine. She said, Charles, it'll be the shortest speech known to man. Jesus wept, and then I'm going to step down. This is your team going into the primary, into the general election. Ed, if we get there, it'll be because of what you do. When we get there, it'll be because of what you do. Remember, it's not about money. Although we need it, it's not about money. It's not about being a full-time politician. I need each one of you to consider this one thing. When Lieutenant Governor Brown or Doug Gansler, when they come out of their primaries, and let me say this too, remind me to close with that, but let me say this too, the biggest mistake, because I'm not convinced that everybody listening, and the halls are in this area, is 100% for me. Some of you might be supporting someone else, and that's okay. So for the two of you that are supporting someone else, for the two of you, I want to say this. You need to make sure you communicate to the people you're supporting that in a blue state like Maryland, the only opportunity to engage your Democratic counterparts is now. Because once the primary is over, they will have no use for forums or debates. It won't happen. Because in their mind's eye, all they have to do is win a primary. It's like what they do in Carroll County. I'm almost envious. In Carroll County, they figure the general election is the primary. They do, because of the strong Republican hold they have in Carroll County. If your candidate, I'm talking to the two of you now, you know who you are. I'm still trying to convert you, but you know who you are. If your candidate is going to win a general election and be able to get Democrats to hear him, they need to be part of Democratic debates and forums now. They should have been doing it 6 months ago, because you're not going to get their ear later. The good news is, bad for you too out there, but everybody else, your candidates have been doing it for the past 8 months. That's the good news. So all I want you to do is this. I want you to think this through. As you're making your way to the ballot, this goes to my two out there too. And you go inside that secret ballot, that curtain is there for a reason. Draw that curtain and think about this. When Brown comes out of the primary, who do you want debating him? Who already has Democrats for Lollar already set up in all 3 counties, Prince George's, Baltimore City, and Montgomery County? Who already has, and you're about to hear about this in a couple weeks, who already has over 300 churches in Prince George's County supporting Charles Lollar for governor? Get ready, it's coming. Get ready, it's coming. It's going to be one of the biggest endorsements this state has ever seen. I am so excited. I want you to think about that. But and one more thing, we have one of the highest concentrations of military in our state of Maryland, that based upon current conflict, we're going to have to be deploying some men and women out of our state. Don't you want an executive with military experience? There's only one in your party. With business experience, military experience, savviness, and the ability to win a general election. You're going to want Ken Timmerman and Charles Lollar when that bell rings, when it's time for that election in November. I'm looking for your support on behalf of Ken, Christine, and Rosha. God bless you all, and thank you so much for being here. I'm going to invite Larry back up. Where's Larry? Where's Larry? There he is. Y'all give Larry a hand. As always, I will be here until the last person leaves. Please make sure some of what we said today gets upstairs.